Hi, Rich, thank you. Tonight, another chapter in the ongoing civil lawsuit against the city of Detroit and its former mayor, Kwame Kilpatrick.
Tonight, the attorney for the family of dancer Tamara Green claims the city was involved in an elaborate murder cover-up. According to motions filed by Norman Yatooma, important emails were shredded, hard drives were destroyed, and other evidence disappeared. Yatooma has also uncovered a new witness in the case. Tamika Ruffin says she was once a dancer and that she performed at the rumored Manoogian party. She claims Green was one of 50 dancers at the bash, and she saw Green give former Mayor Kwame Kilpatrick a lap dance. Soon after, Ruffin says Kilpatrick's wife Carlita attacked Tamara Green with a table leg. Green was killed in a drive-by 6 months after the alleged party. Now, a magistrate wants to know if evidence connected to Tamara Green's murder was destroyed.
Well, with us live right now is attorney Jim Chalmers, the attorney for Kwame Kilpatrick. Jim, thanks for being here.
Hi, you.
Hey, now, you may have known about this other stripper for a while, but this is the first time that we're hearing about Tamika Ruffin. Why don't you believe her?
We had a deposition, and in that deposition, we had a chance to talk to her. This is clearly a troubled woman, a woman who has had a history of closed head injury and psychological problems, and the story that she tells is so fantastic. It stretches credibility.
Well, among the things that she mentions, not only that there were 50 dancers there, 150 men, but that a Channel 2 truck was outside the mansion the night of the party. And I want to assure our viewers that indeed, if a Channel 2 truck had been there, you would have seen that video live that night. What else is she saying, and why do you think that there may be some problems with her credibility?
She didn't come forward until later. There's been much publicity about this case since 2005 when the lawsuit was filed. Her story was just so totally incredible in that she said 150 men and 50 women piled out of the Manoogian mansion on an evening a little bit after 11:45. That just, after thousands of interviews, after 41 depositions, just doesn't track with what everybody has seen and knows. And that is that not one person has come forward other than she to testify to the fact that there was, in fact, this party. Neighbors didn't see anything. People who know Mr. Kilpatrick have not come forward and said anything. Other witnesses who may possibly have been there, if there was such a thing, have not come forward and said anything. And so it just stretches credibility that such an event with 200 people piling out of that house was not seen by anyone.
Well, her dates may be wrong, her facts may be wrong, but attorney Norman Yatooma says that he can explain some of that. Listen to this.
Kwame Kilpatrick said to have had a number of parties. Tamika Ruffin says that she's danced on more than one occasion. So she's confusing some of the details. She's confusing some of the dates. Is that really so outlandish? The details that stand out in her mind, much like my deposition of a former, now convicted mayor? Well, what stands out in her mind is Kwame Kilpatrick receiving a lap dance from her friend, and Kwame Kilpatrick's wife coming in and beating the pulp out of her friend. That's going to stand out in one's mind, irrespective if you can fix it in time.
Well, his point is that Kwame Kilpatrick has been caught lying before. Is it possible then for this woman to get some things wrong but to be right about other facts?
There were 3 separate instances in the deposition when she was actually caught in a lie. But the focus on the Manoogian mansion is really illusory. This case is not about the Manoogian mansion party. It's about whether or not Kwame Kilpatrick hindered or obstructed in the investigation of the death of Tamara Green. After 41 witnesses have testified, some over a period of 2 days, not one witness has come forward and said that. And so he's going to have an uphill battle on this motion for summary disposition.
Yatooma also claims that the city of Detroit destroyed emails, shredded documents, and hard drives in the case. Here's what he said.
I'm sure the city will do what they've always done. They'll railroad any witness who would dare testify against Kwame Kilpatrick, and they'll ignore the other 130 pages of the brief and focus on the single page that details Tamika Ruffin's testimony. They'll do what they do. They'll run from anything that could possibly implicate Kwame Kilpatrick, even if it means throwing the evidence away. Consider, they're not challenging the emails. They threw them away. They literally shredded. In the words of their lawyer, they electronically shredded all of the emails of the mayor, the chief of staff, and the head of the law department. Find me a lawyer who shreds his or her emails. Here they have a contract with SkyTel to save all their text messages. That's why we saw all these text messages. They required their third-party vendor by contract to save those texts. But internally, they throw everything out. It doesn't stand to reason. You can't fashion a legal argument about this. It's just too stupid. I mean, it just doesn't make sense. You can't say these things with a straight face. I can't even tell my kids what I'm doing at work. It just doesn't sound logical. If you were reading this in a book or you watched it on the big screen, you'd think it was terrible writing.
So, Jim Thomas, what do you think happened to those emails? What happened to the hard drives? Where are they?
If Mr. Yatooma had taken the time to ask for them early enough, maybe they might have been preserved. But as it relates to the emails, the system is such that emails are not maintained over a long period of time. There's only so much storage on the server at the city of Detroit, and so unless they are archived, and that takes an actual action to save the message, it's not going to be saved. We expect that in front of Judge Whalen that there's going to be a full hearing on that, and that there's going to be an explanation. Certainly, Mr. Yatooma is puzzled because he never asked for those emails until almost 6 years after the event. And is it any wonder that it's not there? You know, he wants to lay that at our feet. I suggest maybe he should have done some things a little bit sooner.
Well, we're also hearing that Kilpatrick, in a deposition, claimed that he actually gave the computer to the man who replaced him, Ken Cockrell Jr. Is that true?
Well, I don't know if it was in a deposition. We did file an affidavit that once he left office that computer was intact. It had been the habit and prior custom that the computers were passed on from mayor to mayor, and so we believe that computer was in the hands of Mr. Cockrell, and then who knows what happened after we left.
What is no longer in denial, though, is Kwame Kilpatrick's affair, not only with Christine Beatty, but apparently with the federal police monitor, Cheryl Wood. They had sex so many times he couldn't remember when or where.
Well, that's Mr. Yatooma's version of facts. When Mr. Kilpatrick was deposed, he answered all the relevant questions. The only ones that he did not answer were relating to the text messages, and those are going to be the subject of litigation in the federal case that I'm representing him on. So, you know, the fact that he did have an affair, it was acknowledged. How many times he had actually met with or had a liaison with a monitor, that's open to question.
Well, Jim, before we go, you're one of the most expensive lawyers in town. Who's paying for all this legal work right now?
Well, I don't want to say that I'm the most expensive lawyer in town. I don't think that I am.
One of them.
In any event, the federal indictment, he asked for a court-appointed lawyer, and there's a provision of the statute that allows for continuity of counsel, and so I was kept on as a court-appointed lawyer.
So in other words, you may have been paid for previous work, but right now you're working pro bono in this case.
Well, pro bono certainly on the Tamara Green case.
All right. Attorney Jim Thomas, thank you. Coming up on The Edge at 11, Norma Yatooma will join us live to discuss his side of the case. That's all coming up right here on Fox 2 on The Edge at 11 tonight.